Hello, everybody. Wanted to welcome you to a little Zoom interview that I'm doing today with Matt from the UK. Some of you might have seen his videos on TikTok. I'll let him, of course, share a little bit of his story and his journey so we can get to know him. But I would like to do this more often and have an opportunity with people in the brain tumor companion community to do these little kind of brain tumor diaries, because I think that there's a lot to be said. And although a lot of us have these conversations in the Zoom groups that I host every week. 7 to 10 of us come together and have these meetings and kind of talk in this way. I think it's going to be really interesting and good education resource for us to just kind of go back and forth today and learn a little bit about Matt's story and his journey. And even for those of us in the States who kind of have one way of doing things, to learn a little bit about what maybe his kind of protocol has been over there. So welcome, Matt, to Brain Tumor
I,
Companion. It's so nice to have you. Appreciate you giving your time today. If you wouldn't mind just kind of telling the audience, whoever will be watching this in the future, a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, your diagnosis, and kind of a briefing on your journey, and we'll just go from there.
okay, hi everyone. My name is Matt. I'm the tumor killer. That's my nickname, and obviously that means I'm tumor free so far. So I was diagnosed with a grade 2 glioma back in January 2018. I used to work in a homeless hostel. I turned up to work one day for a meeting and suffered what can only be described as a stroke and a very violent seizure in the middle of said meeting. Perfect timing. Um, so I'm taken to hospital after said strokey seizure, as I call it. I learned that I've got a brain tumor at the time. I get no information for a week. I meet my neurologist, the brain surgeon, and during my first consultation, he's going through what my brain tumor looks like and how big it is, which is a mind-blowing moment, let's face it, when somebody brings up your brain in front of you, never mind the fact there's something inside it that shouldn't be there. Um, yeah, so it goes through it and then comes out with the infamous line, "Why did you have a CT scan in 2010?" Oh, no worries, mate. I was out for a reunion drink. I was only meant to have a couple of pints, and one drink led to another, then another, then another. And 20-year-old me at the time got extremely paralytic and doesn't remember any of the night that followed. Next morning, I wake up and my head is covered in blood. My nice new white t-shirt is also covered in blood, and there's a gaping gash going down my head around there. So obviously, I go to hospital to get it checked out. Got probably a mild concussion, judging by the state of my face. So they put
Mhm.
me in for a CT scan to make sure there's no damage to my skull or, brain. And I get the all clear. I'm sent home. No drama. Please don't be so stupid next time, Matthew. If you're going to drink, be careful, take responsibility, and all that jazz. 20-year-old me knows better, obviously. So over the next few years, my mental health goes up and down. Occasionally, my speech would start to slur and stutter, but only slightly. Enough for me to be able to take the mickey out of it and be like, oh, my speech is going funny again. Maybe I need to see a speech therapist, just joking. My cognitive side over the years would start to decline. And I thought nothing of it. People used to make jokes, if you had a brain, you'd be dangerous. And, you know, is there something wrong with you? Are you, special needs or anything like that? Sometimes as a joke, sometimes probably serious. Again, thought nothing of it. Then I think 2017 comes around. I take my first trip to America. Absolutely giddy and excited. Like, yeah, I get to do the New York thing. Flying out. I'm sat having this really nice conversation with a nice Irish couple heading out. And I go to sleep, sat down, thinking nothing of it. And I wake up with my head sort of locked back like that. And I'm making some kind of noise. As I come round, I'm drooling. And this poor couple was sat next to me, looking at me in absolute horror. Like, what the fuck just happened to you? What are you doing?
Mhm.
Again, thought nothing of it. Anyway, next few months, that keeps happening. Usually after I've just finished a set of shifts at work, I'd come home from my night shifts. I'd be in bed during the day, obviously after working a night shift, and I'd wake up, head locked back. I can hear myself making some kind of sound, and I'm drooling, and I can barely breathe. So I Google it because Google is the best doctor. Sarcasm.
Yeah, right.
um,
The best
so
and the worst doctor.
100%. So
Yeah.
one of the first things that comes up is sleep paralysis. So I'm like, oh, I know what sleep paralysis is. I work in a high pressure job working with the homeless, and we get some bad night shifts and some good ones. My sleep pattern is all over the place. My diet's all over the place. I'm losing weight, but not too much. So I just need to learn to chill out a little bit.
Mm.
And that obviously gets worse and worse and worse all the way up until January 2018 when I have that experience where I've been waking up, head back like that and drooling. And but obviously January 2018's little episode went on far too long. So brain surgeon then explains that my CT scan in 2010 had picked up my brain tumor. This is 8 years before my diagnosis. He said, that right there is your brain tumor, Matthew. Obviously, it's about the size of a couple of peas compared to the 4 centimeters it was when it was diagnosed. I said, how the hell does that happen? How do you miss? I was a trained radiologist, miss a brain tumor. He said, well, these things
Yeah.
happen. And
How?
lo and behold, it's
How?
really common, especially in the UK. The amount of people that have jumped onto my page on Instagram and TikTok and said, I've had the same problem. My brain tumor was missed. I told them I've got these splitting headaches, I've got eye problems. Nope, you're fine, go home. Or they've had scans, brain tumor's there, but it's been missed.
I
Like,
can only assume it's because they don't have the healthcare structure to support all there's got to be a reason that they're like, oh, it's under 2 centimeters. It's as if it doesn't exist, even though you're having symptoms. It's really crazy. It's
it
not good.
really is.
Yeah, it's
Like
not
for
good.
me, I've asked doctors, nurses, and doctors seem to have different opinions. So I'll ask doctors, and it's always, well, but they weren't looking for a brain tumor. You had a head injury, so why would they be looking for a tumor? So, it's nothing to do with them. Nurses, they'll take one look at the scan where you can see the brain tumor. Obviously, I've got the copy of it, and it's always, how the hell did they miss that? You can see it right there. There's something in your brain that clearly shouldn't be there. Like,
Yeah, because
it
I
seems to
went in
be,
for a concussion and they found my brain tumor. So they weren't looking for a brain tumor when I went in after a car accident for a concussion, but they told me that I had one. And that was very unexpected. But anyhow, I just think that's really how different those 8 years could have looked, how different your results now could have looked if they just had done something sooner.
I think if it had been found in the early days, a bit last of radiotherapy and some chemotherapy, maybe, because it
Right.
was tiny. It was a fraction of the size it was when it was diagnosed, and obviously, as a direct result of the brain surgery, the brain tumor growing back, and then radiotherapy and chemotherapy, I've got a
Yeah.
brain injury for the rest of my life. Like that kind of sucks.
Kind of. I mean, it really sucks. Like, we get so used to talking about our condition and living with it that we're like, oh, it kind of sucks, but like I get by. It really sucks. I mean, I think
Oh yeah,
I wouldn't wish this upon anybody. I know you wouldn't either. It's a terrible journey to be on. Um, my goodness. So continue. So you have your surgery, right? Like obviously it's eight
yeah.
years later and
So 3 months, or 3 months after diagnosis, so in March 20th of March 2018, 3 months after diagnosis, I get my brain surgery. And obviously, to get brain surgery, you need a lot of appointments. There's a lot of preparation that goes into it because it's a very serious deal. This grade one idiot over here did not appreciate how serious it is. So, didn't want to leave work, didn't want to go on sick pay or anything like that. I want to work for a living. I enjoy my job. I love the job. It's only a brain tumor. They said it might not be cancer. Crack on. It's just a tumor. So I carry on trying to do all my training, my fitness, even though I'm having these stroke-like seizures. Ended up having a couple in public, which was as embarrassing as you can imagine. One particular seizure, I'm sat in a coffee shop. I'm having something to eat, like a toasted sandwich or a toasty, as we call them. Absolutely loving it, going to town on that thing, and then bam, stroke seizure kicks in, which is an ordeal in itself. But my poor friend sat with me while I'm having my seizure, has to stick her fingers down my throat and try and scoop this sandwich out, obviously, so I don't choke to death on it. Which, yeah. So brain surgery comes up, and all the way up into brain surgery, I thought it's just brain surgery. I'm going to get this sucker out of my head and back to normality. And then I've just come back from my son's birthday party. It was his third birthday. And as I'm packing my bag for obviously the week in hospital, the penny drops. Like, this is fucking serious. I'm going in for brain surgery. People have already said they've had friends or family that have had strokes in brain surgery, which has ruined them. People have come out paralyzed. People have died. I'm like, shit. I've not written a letter for my kids. If I
yeah.
die, it's just, that's it. So penny drops. I need to write a letter for my kids, a just in case letter, I call it. But then I realized this dyslexic idiot over here has really bad handwriting, really bad spelling. And if I do croak it in the surgery, I don't want people to remember me by this letter that barely makes any sense. It needs to be from the heart. So I set my phone up like it is now in my living room, sit down on the sofa, and I have to try and say, if you're watching this, it means I didn't make it. Oh, I couldn't do it. Every time I got past the line, started with my son, Jack, if you're watching this, it means your dad didn't make it. Yeah, like even now, what's 6 years on, 6 years this month. Oh,
So
yeah, it's one of those
heartbreaking.
moments. Oh,
No
it
one
is.
should
I've
have
talked
to do
about.
that. Yeah, it's
I
terrible.
would,
Just
I would never wish that on any parent to have to try and explain on a video to your kids why you're not around and so on. Only a parent would really appreciate just how much a sucker punch that is. But obviously, I failed and couldn't do the video. Tried doing my friend's video. This is mate died in brain surgery, but this is how things are. I always thought this of you. I always thought that of you. Couldn't even do that. Every time I got past the line, if you're watching this, I didn't make it. Even trying to make it funny, couldn't do it. So I go into brain surgery the next morning, and I'm thinking, shit, if I die, I've not left anything behind. Like, obviously, I've got possessions and all that, but yeah, yeah, it was just a really weird feeling. And then obviously, my brain surgery, I was awake craniotomy or an awake craniotomy, which is the most bizarre experience, but not for the reasons you'd think. Like, obviously,
yeah, I
drugged
want
up
to
to.
I want to know because very few of us have awake brain surgeries here in this. I've only talked to two people in 3 years that I've been doing this that had an awake brain surgery. And so I really
Wow.
am curious what that was like for you over there.
Oh, so drugged
Terrifying.
up to
I
hope.
can't imagine.
It's really not terrifying. That's the weird thing about it. I guess you're drugged up and on whatever you can imagine. So they get you in. They have to drill some kind of clamp into your skull, literally, and then obviously that's to prevent you from doing the whole head wobble thing, and because brain surgery needs to be precise. Um, I remember feeling this immense amount of pressure going into my skull just around there. I'm thinking, say nothing, just bite your tongue, suck it up and deal with it. 'Cause it's not that it hurt, it's just like somebody crushing your skull hard. I'm thinking if I
Wow.
say something now, they're going to think they're giving me the wrong drugs and they're going to stop the surgery before it's even started. And I want this
Yeah.
thing out. So I bite my tongue, or in my head, I'm biting my tongue. I don't know what I'm doing. Um, then I hear the saw. And when you go to the dentist, and if you've ever heard a dentist, like the drill they use, and that really kind of sounded like that. And I'm thinking, what's that sound? And then I realize that's the bone saw cutting into my skull.
Yep.
Just but it didn't phase me. It didn't. I wasn't sat there thinking, "Oh my god, there's a saw going into my skull. Is this normal? What's going on?" It's more, "Oh, that's the bone saw going into my skull. That's the clamp going into my skull." And then you're in and out of consciousness throughout the surgery. So you'll nod off, and then suddenly somebody will wake you up and ask you a load of questions. So, can you tell me your name? Who's in charge of the country? What's the date? What's your age? And so on. And the idea is to make sure they know what the brain surgeon's doing. So if he's hitting the wrong part of your brain, they'll know because suddenly you don't know what your name is, you don't know how old you are. There's a problem. Um, in some respects, it's safer. Some respects, maybe not. So about halfway in, I think my most vivid memory of the surgery is there's a nurse sat in front of me, obviously asking me all the questions and monitoring me. And she asks me about holidays. Have you been on holiday recently? Is there a particular holiday you like? So I mentioned America, like did the touristy thing, great. But then I mentioned South Africa. Just 2016, had a bad breakup, left an abusive relationship, decided to piss off to South Africa and volunteer with monkeys. So I started talking about that. I'm like, oh yeah, volunteered in South Africa with baboons, loved it, great experience. So she said something to the effect of, "Where was you in South Africa? What do you know roughly where you were?" So, oh yeah, Limpopo or something like that. She said, "Oh, Limpopo," pronounced it completely different to how I did. Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you know it? She's like, "Yeah, I volunteered there in 2016 myself." I'm thinking, oh, what a small world. Like, turns out she'd volunteered just down the road from me at the same time I was out there. Obviously, we never met, but
Yeah. How
so I
cool.
start laughing. I'm laughing about it. I'm like, oh, it's a small world. It's a really small world. And out of nowhere, I just see my thumb come up like this and go like that. I'm like, things start to go a little bit funny. And I can just hear the nurse. I can't see her, but I can hear her saying, Matthew, 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 stop the surgery now. and then I feel something running down my back. Something, I don't know if it's a false memory or a hallucination or what, but I felt like I could feel water going down my back. I remember the neurosurgeon saying, if you have a seizure during the surgery, we're going to put water or saline on your brain to counter the seizure. And I'm assuming that's
Interesting.
what it was. Like, obviously, lights
Interesting.
out. I wake up in a bed and I'm shouting and swearing. I'm a very calm and placid person. I'm too chilled out sometimes, too calm. But I'm shouting, I'm raving. I'm like, I know what you're trying to do. I know you're trying to stop me from having brain surgery. And so this
That's
nurse
all
that's
the
been sat.
drugs talking. All the drugs will
Oh
make
yeah,
it. I mean, you just people get
the
agitated and they just start saying truth serum, if you will. They start going off on you
yeah,
and stuff. Yeah.
this poor nurse. She's like, Matthew, just we need to wait 6 weeks. You just had a seizure in surgery. We need to wait 6 weeks. Come back when you're feeling better. We'll do that. And I'm like, oh, listen, love, I work in the care sector. I know what game you're playing now, trying to make me see your side and being an absolute patronizing knobhead, essentially. So I remember the brain surgeon coming in front of me, just looks at me and says, Matthew, what do you want? What do you want to happen right now? So I said, according to the nurses after the surgery, I come out with that line, get me back in that fucking room now and get this thing out of my fucking head right now. And that's it. Lights out. The next thing I know, I'm in recovery. I'm sort of in and out of consciousness. I'm trying to figure out where I am and what the hell is going on. My head is pounding. And I can just hear other people chatting away and talking. And obviously the first question is, did you get it out? Is it gone? Is it finished? Like, yeah, we've got it out. It's all gone. Don't worry. We're gonna send you back to ICU shortly. And obviously I'm hallucinating and just yeah.
And then life
Um,
is forever changed after that. Life
yeah.
is forever, right? Like it's just forever changed.
I was probably one of the most hated patients in the recovery ward, in the neuro ward, because it was a case of I want to go home now. Hours
Mhm.
after the surgery, once the morphine started to wear off a little bit, I tried
Mhm.
sneaking, tried to get out. I tried to leave the hospital, not realizing that I've got a catheter attached to me. I've got monitor
Oh my
wires all over me. I've got the cannula in my arm. So as I'm trying to escape, I fall out of bed in the middle of the night. Cannula pops out. Blood obviously goes everywhere. I don't know that because I've just had brain surgery
loopy
less than
from
12
all the
hours ago.
drugs. Yeah.
So I'm
Oh
sort of
my
stuck on the
gosh.
floor. I'm trying to wave at the nurses in the nurses station, like, help. Like, nurse
Oh
comes
my
over, takes
gosh.
one look. She's like, what on earth is going on here? I'm like, I want to go home. I don't want to be in hospital. I need to go home. She's like, what's happened? Looks at the bed sheets. Obviously, blood thinners, cannulas popped out, blood's all over the nice white bed sheets. She's, yeah, not happy that she's got to change my bed. And why the fuck do you think you're going
Non-compliant
home?
patient. We would say you were a non-compliant patient, Matt.
Oh yeah. So for the next week, I'm doing everything I can to get out of the hospital. I'm like, I'm fine. I'm wearing my Tough Mudder headband over my bandages. I'm wearing my Tough Mudder t-shirt, Tough Mudder trainers. Fucking everything's Tough Mudder. Like, look, I can do Tough Mudder, so I can go home. No, you can't. Like, yeah. So do a week in hospital for recovery, but nobody tells you after you've had brain surgery that you have a brain injury. Nobody says, look, your life is going to be forever different. You need to understand that everything changes now. So it's
Hmm.
just a case of, can I go back to work now? I leave hospital a week after brain surgery, and the first thing I do is get home, unpack my bag, get ready, get my fresh clothes on, quick wash of the face as best I can, and then I walk to work, which is about a mile up the road from me. It takes me about an hour to walk this 1 mile, bearing in mind I was at the peak of my fitness level pre-brain surgery.
Yeah.
So I get to work, I look at my boss, I've got a baseball cap on, I look rough, I've got like conjunctivitis in my eyes, and I look like one of the residents that live in the homeless hostel on a bad day. Like,
Oh
so I
God.
see my boss, I'm like, oh, boss, Marie, when can I come back to work? Like, takes one look, looks me up and down and says, Matt, fuck off, just
Yeah.
go home. Like, what on earth are you doing here? Go home. You're on full pay for at least another 3 months. Just go home. Just leave.
Recover,
Um,
rest, sleep, hydrate, eat, take a walk, but don't take a walk here. Stay away.
yeah, exactly. Like, I didn't even need the money because I was on full pay anyway, so
Yeah.
there was no but in my head, it's, um, But yeah, that's where everything starts to go downhill. Like I, the fatigue, neuro fatigue, oh, that's something
It's
else.
insane.
I'd
It's
try.
it's insane.
I'd be on my PlayStation for about 20 minutes a day, and I'd
Yeah.
be exhausted. Um, I came away from the surgery with a massive weakness on my left side from the face down to my legs. But I found the PlayStation was helping me get my movement back in my left hand,
Mhm.
whereas it was tiring me out. Like 20 minutes on a video game would feel
Yeah.
like I just spent 8 hours glued to the screen. You
Yeah.
know, putting my face pretty much up against the 50-inch TV so I could see it because my eyes were just like, where is it?
Yeah.
Um,
They don't warn you
I,
about that. It's one of the
nope.
biggest complaints we have in our support groups when we meet is trying to understand the fatigue part because it's almost like, when you go to a gas station and you fill the tank in your car, you can fill it up all the way to the top and actually get a lot of miles out of it. Right now, I feel like I can never fill the gas tank, that my full tank is halfway there. Right. That like I can fill it up
Yep.
halfway, and then I have to be really smart about how I use that half a tank of gas because I don't have a full tank anymore. Like, and I think part of it is, as you mentioned, that fatigue when you were playing the PlayStation, 20 minutes you were done. The amount of focus and energy we have to make sense of the world around us after we've had a hole drilled into our head, it's like it's so different. The sound sounds a little different. The things coming at us visually feel and look a little different. It's like our brain neurons, whatever. There's so much exercise going on in our head to make the messages make sense and for us to make sense of our world after kind of this traumatic moment, that our fatigue is, we're just done. Like our brain is at the gym every day and we don't even know that, right? Like we're trying to
Yeah.
live life physically as we normally would, but mentally our brain's like, nope, we're done, tapped out, we're full for the day. And it's so weird because you just can't pick up where you left off. It's like life is forever changed.
And nobody tells you this. Like when,
No,
especially if you, without it, this sounds worse than it is, but if you're a young, like I was young, under 30, like a young under 30 man or a young under 30 bloke for the Brits out there, like you're expected to be normal, like by yourself and by those around you. Like if you're up and about moving, you're fine. And how are you 6 months down the line still feeling tired? It's been 6 months. Why are you still doing things like that? Why are you saying these random things? You're
mhm.
normal. Like you can't use your brain, like brain surgery as an excuse for whatever this is. And yeah, nobody
They don't
understands it.
they don't
Nobody expl
understand it's not even an excuse and it's not even trying to be a victim of it. It's just like it's so different and there's not a lot of words to explain how it's different. I mean, you do a great job explaining it. And I try my best too, but it's just like something happens. Something, it just slows us down and we just never feel the same. Like you can get the best night's sleep and it's still, you can't bounce back. There's not been a single day since the day post my craniotomy that I've ever felt as good as I did before it. And I still feel
Yeah.
good and I still have a good life and I still have good days and I'm not complaining. Like I'm good, but I'm not at all where I was. It's just, I
Oh
don't
no.
wake up at the same time of day anymore. I don't have the same energy anymore. And it was almost immediate. Like by the time I was recovered, everything just felt harder, right? Like reading emails at work were 10 times more exhausting than they were before. Going out
Yeah.
to a happy hour or a dinner, and then also like I had to really prepare and make sure I conserved some energy to like have a long night out where I was socializing because just all of the noise is overwhelming. It's weird.
Sensory overload. Like I've only just started to learn about sensory overload. Like you're in a room with 6, 7 people, you know all of them, you might be good friends with them or family members, and they're all talking about different things and you just you can't explain.
It's
It's so
just
hard to
noise.
explain it.
It's noise that you want to turn off because it's almost like I can only focus on maybe one or two things at a time now. Like all of the
Yeah,
noise is just too much. It's
it's
weird.
like an anxiety that comes with it. Like it just hurt. It's
Yeah.
not that it hurts your head. It's just the anxiety is almost like a fear, and you can't be around it, or at least for me anyway.
Yeah. And then you think,
Um,
are people noticing? Like I never
yeah,
had seizures, thank God. But I mean, you probably thinking, am I having a focal seizure? Am I about to have a seizure? Is something wrong?
yeah.
Everything kind of slows down. The sounds, it gets enhanced. It's very, I don't know that it's outer body, but it's just like it's almost like the world doesn't make sense when you get that sensory overload level. It just gets weird fast.
So
And
weird.
they don't tell you this, and they don't give you support for it, and there's no medication for it. So it's like, what do you do? They just put you back out in the world and you're supposed to figure it out, right? You're perfect. You look normal. You're fine. Go about your day. That's what we hear.
That's a I've had that comment so many times. Like climbed a mountain back in 2022. Mount Mount Tukau over in Morocco.
Mm-mm.
So I climbed that, get to the bottom, and I'm talking to this complete stranger. I'm saying I'm doing this for a brain injury charity. I'm trying to raise more awareness for people with brain injuries like myself. He's like, "You've got a brain injury?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, mate, I've got a brain injury, a couple of brain tumors, and all the treatments and whatever." Like, you don't look like somebody that has a brain injury. A brain injury to me, mate. I'm like, no. What does somebody with a
Well,
brain
are
injury look like?
we always laugh. We're like, are we supposed to look like monsters and like not?
Yeah,
Our eyes supposed to be like this, and we can't? Like, are we supposed to look like we had our skull cut into and we can't function anymore? I mean, you know, we do have a sense of normalcy. We just feel very different. This isn't, we always say in group, or I always say, it's not like I broke my arm and they scanned it and they said, yes, it's broken. They put a cast on it and then they take the cast off and they're like, okay, bye, never see you again, right? Like until you break your arm again, we don't need to worry about anything. And so this isn't like that. This is totally life changing. It's forever. It's a concern forever. You have to monitor it forever. You have to watch out for symptoms all the time. You have to tell all your loved ones around you, hey, pay attention if I'm having a seizure. Pay attention if I'm slurring my words. Pay attention if I look confused or I'm not remembering important dates or I forget the name of my child or whatever happens. Like your tribe around you has to have a little concern that, like, yeah, you're fine and you look okay and you're doing pretty good and you can move about life. That's wonderful. But I'm at high risk for like all of these things now. And my life is challenged in certain ways because of it. Like as much as all the people who love us want to be in denial about it too, just as much as we would love to be in denial about it, they kind of need to be paying attention, right? Because you had a bone eating infection afterwards, you had a diabetes situation afterwards, right? You had seizures afterwards. I mean, this is not good stuff. Like this could be very
no.
serious.
Like my brain injury, every brain injury is like a snowflake. So every snowflake is obviously different. So every
Mm,
brain injury is different. I think my part of my brain injury is not understanding when my body is in some form of crisis. So it could be dehydration. You know, I've had days where I've just not hydrated at all or had any fluids, and then trying to work out why I feel so ill. It's because I've not been drinking, or
mm,
the bone eating infection. 9 months walking around thinking this hole in my head's a bit itchy. This hole in my head is wet, and there's yellow water coming from it. Oh well, just I'll carry on with work. I'll carry on getting ready for Tough Mudder, and no, that's not normal. But like with diabetes, I was drinking. Obviously, you see me drinking a kind of Monster now. Um, Obviously, sugar free for the record. um,
Caffeine, no
but
sugar.
all the caffeine, but no sugar. I'm healthy like that. But
Yeah, balance.
so
Balance is everything.
exactly. So I was trying to get off Monster last year, coming up to my what do you call it, cranioplasty. Obviously, I spent 4 years walking around with a hole in my head covered by skin because of the bone eating infection surgery. Um, so in the build up to that surgery, I thought if I can just try and kick the energy drinks and replace it with something a little bit healthier, maybe. So I went with Lucozade Sport, which your equivalent would be Gatorade, something like
Gotcha.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd just start drinking them, like 4 or 5 bottles of that a day, because I was doing a lot of gym work, trying to get ready for mountain climbing and other random events. And over time, I'm starting to think I'm getting really ill. Like my fatigue's getting worse. I can't stop peeing. Other diabetes symptoms that,
Yeah.
yeah, just that. I'm like, wouldn't it be funny if I've actually got diabetes? Like the irony. So I'm saying this to my other half for months and months. I'm like, yeah, there's no way I've got diabetes because I can drink a full can of Monster and I'm not dead. No, that's not quite funny. But so she's like, you need to go to a doctor, get a diabetes test. I'm like, yeah, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it, and so on. And obviously, I'm showing more and more aggressive symptoms that a
Mhm.
normal person would say, shit, I need to go to a doctor.
Yeah.
So I go to my doctor. As I'm waiting to go in for a blood test, I've got a can of Red Bull and a chocolate bar. I'm just like, I won't have diabetes. I actually made a TikTok about it. I'm stood outside of the doctor's surgery with a can of Red Bull and a chocolate bar. I'm going in for a diabetes test. The irony. A normal person or somebody that doesn't have a brain injury would probably say that's not very clever. That's not,
No.
good. So I do the blood test and it's a Friday afternoon, so I'll get the results on Monday or Tuesday. Next day, I get the phone call. How long have you been diabetic, Matthew? I didn't know I am. Oh,
They
you
just
need to
found
come
this
in
news
right
out
now.
right now.
Is that I'm looking at your blood results and you need to come in right now to the out of hours.
Oh
Um,
no.
Ended up sending me into hospital with possible DKA because my blood sugar levels, the diabetics will get this one, were 28, 29. So really fucking bad.
Wow.
Turns out Lucozade Sport or Gatorade is, it's got more sugar in it than a lot of energy drinks. So I'd been
Yeah.
pounding these drinks to get rid of the Monster and Red Bull, but I'd made things 10 times worse.
Yeah.
But I've only just, and that was May last year, I've only just been told I've got type 1 diabetes. So not best situation.
No, yeah, because that is
But
unfortunately not reversible. Type 2, you can change with your diet, but type 1, you're going to need insulin. It means your body can't produce insulin. So that sucks.
they reckon it's a side effect of the chemotherapy because obviously, unlike radiotherapy, where it's directed at the tumor,
Right.
chemotherapy just
Your whole
everything.
body. Yeah.
So my pancreas is pretty much fucked up.
Yeah.
But um,
It's
yeah,
amazing with all that you have been through that you have this much, well, maybe the caffeine's helping, but that you have this much energy and you get along so well and you are able to like push as hard as you do. Do you ever find that it feels like it's too much? Like, are you going too hard, too much, too fast? Like, I know I'm a
yeah,
go-getter too, type A personality, OCD all the way for so many reasons. And I just had to slow down. I had to finally look in the mirror and have a cry session with myself and be like, I know you're fighting to get back to the person you were, but you need to start embracing the person that you are. And like, I kind of just had to walk through the door of acceptance. And some of that meant like, I just can't go as hard as I used to. And I'm curious if you've gotten to that point yet, or are you still in fight and flight mode where you're just like, I'm going to go as hard as I can till I drop to the floor and I can't take another breath, right? Like, are you going to go till the wheels fall off, or are you getting to a place where you can admit you have to slow down?
I've lost 3 jobs as a result of the whole brain injury side of things. Like, I mean, the last one I lost was fairly recently, January, February. Sort of this whole sensory overload and the fatigue post shift kicked in
Mhm.
hard. Although saying that, I start a new job tomorrow, so um, it's I tend to push myself a lot further than I should. I was meant to be climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in September.
Mhm.
Uh, I've been fundraising for it, obviously for a brain tumor charity and a cancer support charity. But I had a training session last month where I just, as you just said, it just hit me. I was like, I can't do this. If I have a bad day going up the mountain, I'm fucked. Like
Mhm.
a bad day during a marathon or a bad moment during a marathon, and you can just pull out and there's no drama. If you have a bad day up Africa's highest mountain,
Yeah.
you need a helicopter to get back down. You're going to need medical aid, and it's
Yeah.
a logistical nightmare. Like so,
Yeah.
it's one of those moments. It crippled me. Like I had a little cry. Like, am I? Does this mean I'm failing? Does this mean I'm losing? But then I start seeing my videos are starting to go around the world. Like you're what 7,000 miles away having this
Yeah.
conversation now.
I'm over
Like,
here in Los Angeles, California. It's 12:50 lunchtime for us. It's
uh,
bedtime for you.
yeah, like 10 to 8 p.m.
Yeah.
Um, but everything I'm doing is impacting people around the world. Like I need to learn to slow it down, which I'm slowly starting to do. But at
Mhm.
the same time, if I've still got energy in me to keep pushing, and when mentioned climbing Mount Tukau, that's North Africa's highest mountain. Obviously, I got to the top and I screamed "fuck you, brain tumor" from the top. But the whole point of that was to show people that have suffered with brain tumors and brain injuries, the mental health side of things. Obviously, I'm a suicide attempt survivor.
Mhm.
Um, I wanted people that have suffered anything like me to see that you can still smash the mountain-sized problems. So, as much as it was for me and the charities I was raising money for, it was
Yeah.
for other people. Like I could have done with that in my
Yeah.
darker days, post brain surgery and whatnot. I could have done with somebody just saying, "Listen, mate, it's going to be shit for a couple of months, maybe a couple of years, but you can start climbing mountains. You'll be able to go and do all this cool, normal stuff. You just need to learn to be more accepting of the whole situation and appreciate it."
Yeah.
Um, got a little bit corny there, but
And you have to, afford yourselves timeouts. It's hard
mm,
at least for me, I feel like I had to learn to make time to just decompress. And like, again, my natural instinct is to go, 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 fill up all the time, fill up all the space, keep busy, be productive, kind of all these things, which is what I always was. And I still am, but on a different level. And, the reality of it is sometimes you can get so lost in the doing and the going that you kind of, you, you can get worse off. You can get more sick. You can burn yourself out sooner. And then what quality of life will that lead me if I keep pushing so hard? Who am I to my spouse, to my family, my friends, whatever, to myself? And so I was just curious what your feelings were on that because we go into such survivor mode, I think, post surgery, right? It's just like, holy shit, I faced death. Okay. Like I basically signed off paperwork this thick that said, I understand that I have all these things that can go wrong and I might not know who anyone is on the other side of this. And I might be crippled for the rest of my life. And so you kind of go in just praying, whatever is your faith, like just hoping, universe, please make sure I come out of this okay. And then you come out and you feel like, oh my God, like I just faced probably the worst possible thing I may ever have to face in life. And so then you kind of have this survivor mode of like, I don't want to waste another minute ever in right. Like as long as I've got legs that move and a brain that knows where the hell I'm at and a heart that's pumping, like I want to go, 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 get back to my norm. And then we realize as we start working in survival mode, at least again personally, how exhausting it is and how exhausting it is really fast in comparison to, what you could do before. And so it's so emotionally traumatizing. The right, like that, and I've seen your videos where you're just kind of tears in your eyes, like it's just so different and it's so emotionally traumatizing. And again, we're not prepared for it. And we really want to fight, but it's also really exhausting fighting all the time and proving all the time that like you can do it when really you just want to sleep the day away. And it's such a weird balance. And I don't know what your takeaways are on that or what your overall kind of struggle is, but I think that that's a hard one is like coming to the realization that I have to walk through the door of acceptance and that it's no matter how hard I fight, it's still always going to be hard, right? Like
I've
there's
started,
just
yeah. I tell people now, obviously, I think 2021 is where I had my real. I'd run away during COVID to South Africa again to try and. I was getting to a point where I sort of had a rope on my banister to off myself essentially because the whole lockdown thing with a brain injury, I just lost my job, the hostel job, everything just crippled me. But it wasn't until I came back from South Africa I had this new clearer outlook. And I realized that brain injury is you go through the 5 stages of grief. I don't know if you've heard of
Mhm.
the Kubler-Ross model. It doesn't just apply to death, and that's the common misconception. So you go through the anger, the denial, the bargaining, I always lose one of them. I can always
One of them
anger,
is
denial,
acceptance, I believe. It's probably the last one, but let me see.
bargaining, acceptance.
Stages of grief. Let's
You've
see.
got this.
Always keep the computer up. 5 stages of grief. Where are you? Where are you? Google is failing me today, but I'm going to find it. I agree with you 100% because I always tell people we have to bury our old selves, right? Like the person that
Yeah,
we were before the diagnosis, before the surgery, and all the deficits that came with it. We have to bury that old person and meet the new person because that is essentially what we are. And we do have to go through those stages of grief for ourselves. You're 100% right. So, where are you at in your stages of grief?
I think I've hit that acceptance stage. I think it was the 2021 mark where I sort of sat down and said, fuck, I've been through all of this. I'm never going to be able to work in homeless hostels again. I'm not going to be able to do, I'll never get to be a paramedic. That was on my bucket list. You know, and then accepting that I've been through the other 4 stages. I've had my angry moments of, this is your fault, the hospital,
Yeah.
denying everything. Like I've it's only a tumor. I've not really had these problems. And then bargaining, maybe I can do this. Maybe if I just try and go down that road and it's
Depression
gonna
was the
bug me.
fourth one. That's the one we forgot.
Yes,
Depression.
depression. That always
Maybe
the one
you've
I
already
forget.
let it go. I don't know. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And like the goal obviously is always to get to acceptance, but it's quite a
Yeah,
roller coaster getting there.
yeah.
And then often once
Like,
you're there, you kind of go through it again because sometimes it just circles back for some reason. Like it kind of comes in waves. I don't know if that
yeah,
happens to you, but it happens to me.
there's no order for if you do the whole 5 stages of grief. There's no order for it. You can go through anger, then you can go through bargaining or
Hmm.
whichever. And I still get days now where I'm sat at home. I'll be having a bad day with fatigue and a bad day with the cognitive side of things. You know, if things keep going wrong, I can never get my speech right. I'll just sit there and I'll have a little cry and hate myself. Like, oh, I'm stuck like this forever. I fucking hate this. This
Yeah.
is me. Whatever it is, I hate it. I think Christmas time, I posted a couple of videos where I started a little fire in my living room just through the cognitive side of brain injury just got the better of me, and I just made a funny video about it. Like, oh shit, I nearly set my living room on fire. Ah, fuck, that's not actually as funny as you think. So
Yeah.
this brain injury is kicking my ass now, and I had my little Debbie Downer moment, as I call it. Um, but yeah, now I accept that I'm gonna have bad days, but I'm also gonna have great days, and obviously days like this where somebody from all the way from America has reached out, like that's crazy, but really good.
Yeah.
Obviously, something's working.
Yeah, and
So
our community is small. Obviously, there's not a lot of people roaming the earth who have brain tumor diagnosis, although I think there's a lot more than we hear of or that speak of it. Because I think a lot of people are very shy to talk about it and they're embarrassed by it. And they don't want
yeah,
people to know, or they don't want their jobs to think that they're different, or for whatever reason, that don't want to worry their family members. And for all those reasons, I encourage anyone who is out there, even listening to this conversation when they watch this video, that they do talk about their journey and they share it. Because one, I think there's a lot of healing in releasing it. Me personally, the most comfortable I've been on this journey has been just talking about it in an open way and not being ashamed of it and not feeling like I'm different or less than or any of those things. But the world talks a lot about breast cancer and pancreatic cancer and all of the other things that are more common. They buy pink all October out here for breast cancer
yeah,
awareness. Water bottles, socks, t-shirts, all of the things. Nobody wears a brain cancer or a brain survivor like this. No one's talking about it. They don't think to support it or put money in research. Like we really have to be advocates for it and then allow other generations and future people, even everyone out there who's listening, if you have this condition, talk about it and come to resources like our support groups, or have moments like this where you meet a peer and you create something kind of supportive and educational for the community, because we do feel very alone, and that's the hardest part. One of the hardest parts of the journey is feeling kind of alone in our own mind and in our own recovery around people who don't understand it. And it's emotional, it's stressful, it's confusing, it's anxiety driven in the sense that we kind of don't know where it's going to take us, when it will end. And so I feel like people need to talk more about it, and I'm so proud and glad that you do. Again, as a young male, you could just be like, screw it, I'm going to go about my life and pretend nothing happened so that I don't have to feel weird about this or misfit or share my emotions. But I love it, and I hope you continue to do so much more of it. And we need that. We need this, in a world filled with technology and AI. Like we need this coming together. And luckily, social media brought us together, which is one great benefit
yeah.
of it. But we can never lose the human element of this. It's a lifetime journey when you have this diagnosis, and we really do need to come together and not run and hide. I think that it's very important. So if you had one piece of advice for anyone who watched this video, who heard your journey, and what would it be? What would be your one piece of advice for today for anyone maybe who's recently diagnosed with this condition? What would you tell them after what you've learned?
Ooh. Uh,
Not to
where
put
do
you
I
on the
start?
spot or anything.
I always say just be patient with yourself. Take your time. Recovery is slow. Recovery just it seems like a never-ending tunnel, but the more you search, the more you talk, the more you reach out to people, the closer that light at the end of the tunnel gets. It's just take the leap of faith. Have a conversation with somebody about your brain tumor diagnosis. If you've got a brain injury, talk to somebody about it because people I've found 99% of the time are genuinely curious. Nobody's laughed at me for having a brain injury. Nobody's judged me and called me in anything for having a brain injury. People
Right.
generally want to know more about it. So take the leap of faith, have a conversation with somebody. Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. I say don't be shy to talk about it, because at the end of the day, this is our everyday. It's not like it's going to change or go away. That this is our everyday, and if you want to know us or love us or talk to us, that's part of our story, and it doesn't have to be big, bad, or scary. It's just part of our story and part of our history and part of our growing in this life. So Anyhow, it's been so amazing talking with you today. I've absolutely loved this. And I would love to do this again. Are you open to doing this again?
I'd love to. Like, this would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a
So I know
podcast or something.
our timing is a little bit different, but we definitely will meet again. And to anyone listening, his information is going to be at the bottom of this video, so you guys can certainly look him up on social medias. And Matt, I know, is going to continue to make videos and inspire us with all of his stories. And I can't wait to have a conversation with you again. So for now, everybody watching and listening, we say farewell, and we will certainly do it again sometime. So take care, Brain Tumor Companion community, and everyone else out there listening. Much appreciated. So till next time.
Thanks a lot.